Right, I'm putting the mister aside this week and dusting off some Raspberry Pi as I want to take a look at Batocera, see how easy it is to get set up and, indeed, if it works with the Sinden Lightgun. In one sentence then, what is Batocera? Batocera is an open source operating system that allows users to emulate classic video game consoles on a variety of hardware devices. That's a good start. Thanks ChatGPT. So, how easy is it to install, get ROMs loaded, and are there any pitfalls to watch out for? I'll also discuss some benefits of choosing Batocera over alternative solutions like RetroPie. Let's go! First things first then, this is the hardware I'm going to be using today. A Raspberry Pi 3B Plus. I've somehow managed to acquire about half a dozen of these, and many of you may well have one or two laying around as well. Of course you'll also need an SD card. 8GB is the minimum, but 16GB or more is recommended to help manage software updates. In addition, I've found that using an external USB or disk drive really helps streamline ROM management. I'll go into this more later in the video. A USB gamepad, HDMI cable and a suitable power supply round off the components. I also have a Sinden Lightgun, pow, which I'm led to believe is plug and play. So let's see about that. Now, my personal history with Raspberry Pi emulation goes back to 2013 or 14 when I set about installing one into an old Mega Drive shell. And with the game ports connected to the GPIO of the board, it was a cool little project. To power that, I used a very early version of RetroPie, which, after many hours of setup and configuration, was a decent little emulation machine for most 8 and 16-bit systems. Since then, I've pretty much always used RetroPie for such projects. It was familiar, and I understood its quirks. Not to mention that, at least for a while, it really was the only viable option. Today, that isn't the case, with many other projects aiming to achieve similar results with slightly different approaches. These include Lacquer, Recalbox, and the subject of today's video, Batocera. RetroPie is still the most popular solution for Raspberry Pi owners, running atop the Raspberry Pi OS flavour of Linux. But recent years have certainly seen these other projects gain more traction. And Batocera, I'm told, is one of the easiest to set up, configure, and is available for many hardware profiles, not just the Raspberry Pi. So, let's see. The process here will of course be for the Pi, but most of the information is applicable to other devices as well. Batocera is available for most single board computers, various handhelds, and x86 and 64 systems. Nice! Getting back to the task in hand then, installing Batocera. This is super quick and can be done in as little as 20 minutes. I'll split this up into 3 sections. 1. Flash Batocera onto an SD card. 2. Add ROMs over the network or with a USB drive. And finally, step 3, configuration tips and tweaks. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, easy. Step 1 then is to download and flash Batocera to your SD card. So head over to the Batocera website, click download and scroll the page until you find the system. In this case I'm using a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus. So just click it and the OS will download. It can be pretty large, over 1GB, but hopefully that won't take too long. To flash the SD card, go ahead and download Balena Etcher. With Balena Etcher open, go ahead and select the Batocera OS, plug in your SD card, select it and flash. Once that's done its thing, pop your SD card into the Pi and fire it up. In a few moments, the retro train will pull into the emulation station. Choo choo! There is a few free games included, but that's not why we're here, is it? So let's see about getting ROMs onto the system. Step 2 then, ROMs. As is often the case, there are several ways to do this. As Batocera is a Linux-based OS, it uses the file system ext4. So, unless you have access to another Linux system, you likely won't be able to add ROMs directly to the SD card without using third-party tools. You can of course connect Batocera to your network using either Wi-Fi or Ethernet, and it does a great job of simplifying this process for you. Plug in a network cable and boom. Or if you want to go the Wi-Fi route, press start to access the menu and configure Wi-Fi. Either way, connected to your local network, Batocera will make itself available as a Samba share, which should show up immediately. Dive in there and add your ROMs to the relevant ROMs folder. The clear downside to this is the time it can take to get everything where it needs to be. A few games here and there, sure, it's easy and convenient, but larger collections of tens or hundreds of gigabytes, well, there's a better way. Let's use an external drive. In this case, I've got a 64GB USB stick nub thingy. Just don't rush on and add ROMs. It will need to be sort of initialized in Batocera first. This will add a collection of folders to the drive to ensure everything is in just the right place. And don't worry about losing pre-existing data on the drive. As long as it's formatted to exFAT file system, Batocera will not delete or format it. It'll just add the required directories. That's a good thing. So plug the drive into Batocera or into your Pi or device, you know what I mean. Press start in the options menu, go down to system settings and under storage choose your drive. After a few moments the necessary files and folders will be created. Go back to your computer and add ROMs to the specific ROM directories. Plug the drive back into the Pi and restart the system. And that's pretty much it. There are of course other ways to get ROMs on, SSH or FTP, but it's just way easier and usually quicker to use an external drive like I did. So, I mean, I'd do that. This is step 3, configuration tweaks and other tips. At this point you've got a pretty usable system. But one thing I found with Batocera on the Pi is that it defaulted to using the headphone jack for sound output rather than the HDMI. This is an easy fix, and just by going into the system settings and changing the audio output, sorted that out. You'll also find an option here for overclocking, so go ahead and do that if you've got a suitable cooling solution such as a heatsink on your Pi. BIOSes then. Certain systems will require BIOS ROMs to work, mainly CD-based consoles such as the Sega CD and PS1. These will need to be downloaded separately and require a little extra setup to ensure they're in the right spot. Thankfully, there's an easy peasy way to get around this problem. The Minicake TV has compiled all of the BIOSes you'll ever need into one handy downloadable archive in precisely the structure Batocera requires. There's literally every BIOS here, so the download is big, but you'll likely only need to do this once and it's well worth it in my opinion. Links are in the description. Simply merge those files onto your drive and it's done. Scraper, you may have heard of this. It's a way of adding box art and other information to your ROMs. By default, your ROM collections don't look too pretty right now. You want the sexy box art and the screenshots. Of course, thankfully Batocera's built-in scraper does all the hard work for you. Ensure you're connected to the internet and scrape away, pretty much. I recommend going over to Screen Scraper and setting up a free account. It's more stable, fast and fully featured than the other options. It can still take a little while depending on how many ROMs you have, but just leave it running and when you come back, update the game lists. With any luck, you'll be presented with a glorious collection of games ready to go. Now, with Batocera, you can very easily change the UI settings to your liking to display screenshots, box art, video clips, and other info, as well as the overall layout. You'll find most of the fun configuration settings, I think they're fun, in the theme configuration option. Just play around with it, don't worry about messing anything up. You can reset to default at a button press. Game collection settings is where you can quickly manage large libraries to have sections for last played games, multiplayer games, single player titles, and favourites and more. If you have a fully scraped library, this will really come into its own. It's so quick and easy to change the UI and collection settings. So let's make a light gun section and try this thing out. Yeah, Sinden Lightgun is apparently plug and play. It's recommended that a Pi 4 or above is used due to the extra processing requirements for the little camera. So I'm a bit concerned it may not very well work on the Pi 3, may not work very well. It already struggles with Dreamcast, which just isn't playable really. But I do have high hopes that Super NES, Mega Drive, PS1, etc. will be fine. So let's plug it in and see. After a few moments, the gun is detected and a white border appeared on the screen. This is a good start. So I fired up Duck Hunt and it just sort of works, like almost perfectly. It's a great start nonetheless. So how about Super Scope 6 on the SNES? Yeah, well that's running well and accuracy seems pretty decent. A few stray bullets, but nothing particularly egregious. I was able to calibrate the gun by holding left on the D-pad for a short while and shooting at the centre of the screen. After that it worked even better. So let's try some more systems. Sega CD games are working well. Even if this isn't the best version of Mad Dog McCree ever released, it is playable as intended. And PlayStation. Obviously starting with Time Crisis. Classic, isn't it? I was a little worried there'd be too much slowdown, but it is working really well. The gun configuration screen at the start can help identify any weak spots in your setup, but after calibration in Batocera it's kind of perfect. There's a little lag, but this is likely due to using a Raspberry Pi, which has noticeable lag to me anyway, combined with the extra processing that the Sinden requires. It's still perfectly usable and is great fun. It's Time Crisis, isn't it? Of course it's fun. In fact, all the G-Con games work great, including Point Blank, Resident Evil Survivor and Gunfighter. Games that utilise other guns, such as the Justifier, aren't working on the PSX cores present in this version of Batocera. This includes Lethal Enforcers, Area 51 and Die Hard Trilogy. Most of these can be patched to support GunCon. It's a bit of a hassle finding rips in the correct format, but I was able to track down a copy of Die Hard Trilogy as a .img file, patched it, and now it works pretty well. The reload is a bit finicky, but I must admit I'd forgotten how much fun this game is. It's really good. Well, overall I've had a really fantastic experience with Batocera this week. The easy configuration, fast scraper, built-in Sinden Lightgun support have made me see that RetroPie isn't the only game in town when it comes to emulation on the Pi. And with Batocera supporting multiple systems, including Steam Deck, which I'll likely try at some point soon, I can highly recommend it as a great OS for emulation. And I'd be interested to hear what y'all think in the comments. Yeah, I'm American now, apparently. Is Batocera the new king, or are Lacquer, Recalbox, or even RetroPie more worthy in 2023? Subscribe. I'm done.